So welcome back to this JavaScript class on web design, which is our short course. So we have started
Yeah,
looking at JavaScript, and I think we looked at how we can load JavaScript, how we can define variables, what variables are. We looked at data types. We also looked at how we can define functions, right?
yeah,
Yeah, so today I want us to look at a very important aspect of programming, which also applies to JavaScript, which is what we refer to as flow control or control structures. So, are you able to see my screen?
no,
All right. So, okay. So let me just share my screen. You should now be able to see it here.
yeah,
So, what I want us to discuss today is something called flow control,
yeah,
or some people call it control structures.
yeah,
So, flow control or control structures are basically the statements that are used to enable us determine how the program is going to flow. Now, as you've seen before, when you write our program, it flows from top to bottom. Okay?
yeah,
So it executes
yes,
from the first line going downwards, right?
yeah,
But sometimes you don't want the program to work like that. That's why the flow controls or the control structures are there. There are quite a number of flow controls that we have within JavaScript. Just a second.
okay,
Okay, so, there's a package I was trying to follow up, but that's okay. So, as I was saying, flow control is how we determine how the program flows. Now, we have quite a number of flow control structures in programming, but this is a programming principle, not only JavaScript, but of course, there is how that is implemented in JavaScript, which is why we're learning them anyway, right?
yeah,
So, let's start with the first flow control that we have is called selection. So number one, okay, so these ones, let me just explain what they are. They alter how a program flows. So they change or they alter how your program will flow. So instead of executing from top to bottom, they will be able to allow you to execute something else altogether instead of executing from top to bottom. Okay. So the first flow control structure we have in Java in programming is called selection. Okay. Now, what does
yeah,
selection do? Selection allows you to execute a portion of code based on some conditions. Okay. So it
yeah,
allows you to execute a piece of code or code block based on some conditions. Okay. Now, its
yeah,
implementation in JavaScript we'll have quite a number. So I'll start with the first one is if then. So the first control structure that affects selection in JavaScript is what we call if then. So I'll just explain them, then I'll show us how to use them one by one, okay?
yeah,
So I think I'll open our project. Um, I should be inside my documents if I'm not wrong. Then I think we call it web design short course. Should be somewhere up here. Let me just see. It's here. Just a minute again.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll open this. I'll open CMD from here. Then I'll open Visual Studio Code from here. So what we will do here is basically do what we call, now we even lost the number of days, so let me just assume this is going to be 12.
Yeah.
So 13. So here I'll put emmet and I'll say flow controller. So as I've mentioned, in JavaScript we have we can do what we call selection, and with selection we can implement one of the structures as an if then else structure. If then structure. Okay. So let me give you a classic example. Let's say I have a field and you've asked me for my name. So if my name exists, then I can be able to tell you welcome. Others, I'll tell you please provide your name. Right. So
Yeah.
because you've already done because we've already done because you've already done how to do user interfaces, let's create a UI that will show us how to get around this. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do that. So I'll create a simple UI.
Okay.
So let's do a user interface here. Let's put an input with of type text. Then give it an ID of your name, something like that, right? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to ask you for your name, right? Then once you provide your name, I'll put here a button with an ID of process, isn't it? Then I'll give it
Yeah.
a button there that says process. So I just want us to show, I want us to see how to put all these things together so you're not learning JavaScript outside HTML and CSS because you already know how to use HTML and CSS. Okay? So we want to see how to do these things practically. Okay? So
Yeah.
we'll run this. It's not going to be fancy, but of course we can make it a little bit fancy. Um, so I'll run it. So you have that. Maybe I can put a label there, but let me run them side by side. Let me run them side by side so that you're able to see what you're doing versus what output is coming, isn't it? So let me put here a label
Yeah.
that says this is your name, and then enter your name, something like that. Okay. So that should be that looks a little bit nicer. Then down here, let's put another ID which says message. Yeah? So sorry, message should be an ID called message like that. So there'll be some message down here. It's blank at the moment, but of course, when user says process, it's going to process and it's going to give them a message down here. So because I don't want those things to appear, I'll say auto complete is equals to off. I just don't want you to remember those names that are there, so it's plain like that. We already learned all these properties, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to incorporate some JavaScript. Ideally, I should have JavaScript separate in a different file as we were doing, or did we do, no, we didn't do them separately, but it's usually a good idea to separate JavaScript from your normal code. But for purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to embed it down here so that the file becomes just one single file, okay? So what
Yeah.
I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, first of all, I'll declare some variables. One of them is going to be the field that has your name. So your name field will be document dot query selector. So usually before you even do that, you put a script. You start with a script so that it knows that you are doing scripting. Otherwise, if you don't do a script, it will assume that you're just outputting some random text. Okay. So here I'll simply
Yeah.
say a constant, your name field, the name field is equals to document. Yeah, you can get element by ID. But I don't want to use query selector because we already know how to use CSS. So we're going to use the CSS syntax for that. Then process button, I'll also put that. Then I'll also declare another one, results, which is that. So it will, my results have to go inside here, okay? So I've declared these three. I don't need to put this const all the time. It's a good practice to just declare it once, then just separate these ones with commas, right?
Yeah.
Like that. So I already have those three variables. So I want to listen to when somebody clicks on this button and a name has been provided, then I'll be able to show the message down here. Okay. So I'll simply say process button dot add event listener. And the event listener here is I want when somebody clicks on it, I want to run the following anonymous function. We said anonymous functions are usually used for callbacks. Huh? And this is an example of a callback and how you can use it. So we have this anonymous function here, which will be executed when a user clicks on this process button, which is this button with an ID of process. So you can be able to follow that logic as we go down, right?
Yeah.
So when somebody clicks on that button, I'm simply going to say a variable, your name, will be equals to whatever is inside here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, dot value. Okay. So
Yeah.
whatever is inside this field, I'll pick that value and store it inside here. Remember, this refers to the input itself. This one refers to the value inside the input. That's the difference. Okay. So here,
Yeah.
I only want to show a message here when you provide your name, right? So I'll simply say if your name is not equal to blank, then do the following. So you can see I'm only going to execute the code that is inside here on condition that your name is not equal to blank. Okay, so I'll say
Yeah.
process, not process but results div. I can use .text or .html. I'll simply say hello. Then I can use a query string. Yeah, yeah, I think that's good. So I'll leave out the else part. We're interested in the if only. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to output hello with your name when you provide a name here. So if I don't provide a name, nothing happens. But if I say something like Richard, because the name is not blank, then you can see it says, "Hello Richard, welcome to JavaScript." I'll repeat that.
Yeah.
Only when I provide the name, if I don't provide the name and I click process, nothing happens. So it means
Yeah.
this code here will never execute so long as this condition has not been met. Okay?
Yeah.
So this code block will
Yeah.
only execute when this condition is met. Remember, we say we're talking about flow control. So ideally, this program is supposed to flow from top to bottom. But once it reaches this particular place, we need to make a decision. Is this name blank? Yes. If this name is not blank, then we go ahead and execute this code. Otherwise, if that name is blank, then I don't execute this code over here, and hence we call that selection. Okay, so it will execute
Yeah.
code based on some existing conditions being met. Okay, so if then
Yeah.
is one of them. Okay, so the
Yeah.
second one is what we call if then else. So I'll have here if then else. So there'll be a first condition. If the first condition is true, then I'll execute a code block. If the first condition is not true, then I'll execute the other code block. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what if then else means. So for example, if I was to modify this code here, if you provide your name, I'll execute this portion here. What if the name has not been provided? So it introduces us to now the else part, which is here. So this else, I'll simply say, please enter your name. As simple as that, okay? So
Yeah.
whichever message is going to appear down here will be very dependent on what has been typed in this box over here. Okay, so if I
Yeah.
don't provide that and I say process, it will tell me please enter your name. But if I enter my name as Richard, then it'll go ahead and tell me welcome. So you can see that's how if then else works.
Yeah.
You want to try that out?
I can try.
Okay, please do. Mhm. Kama vile kama nipatie hiyo order number. Mhm. The one that they should have given me. 78881. Nasema tumeita tu. Hey, how are you, sir? Naitwa Richard, eh? Success?
It's not.
Okay. And by the way, these control structures are going to make up more than 70% of your application. Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we need to understand them very, very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
It's okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have that. But it's also possible that you could also have what we call if then else if. So for example, maybe um, um, if you have more than one condition that you want to test, because you see this one will only test for two conditions, whether your name is blank and nothing else. But what if your name is admin or something that somebody just types numbers, right? So if somebody types numbers, that there's no way that can be their name, right? So
Yeah.
what I could do here, if is your name is not blank, then maybe I can make another decision and check if the name is. So what I'll do here is I'll say if, maybe I can use a function like number, sorry, function like number, your name, then something of the sort. So what will happen is if somebody just types a number, I'll tell them, actually I can use past int. So I want to convert whatever has been provided here. If it's a number, I'll tell them to enter a valid name. Okay. Otherwise, I'll check if the name is blank. Otherwise, so you can say I have an if, else. Okay. So that's the other structure as that you can implement on selection as far as JavaScript is concerned. So we have the third one, if, then, else if, else. So you can see there are different structures. So I have if then one condition, if then else two condition, if then else if three conditions. So there's the first condition, second condition, third condition. I hope you are seeing that, right? So sometimes
Yeah.
when you're writing your code, that's very, very important to do that. So if I type something like here, that, and I say process, you should tell me please enter a valid name. So it means that it will convert this one into a number and this will return a true number. But if I type something like Richard here, that's not a number. So it should be able to display my name. Otherwise, if I put blank, it should tell me to enter my name. So you can see I have three different conditions that I can respond to as far as this is concerned. So the portion of code that is going to execute will be dependent on the condition that has been provided here, whether it matches that condition or not. Hence the selection control structure. Okay. Now
Yeah.
it's also possible to have what we call nested ifs. It's also possible to have what we call nested ifs. Now you can see I'm spending so much time on if because this is what you're going to be writing the most. Okay? If you look at most programs, it's basically a condition. You do something based on some conditions. That's what a program does. Hey, that's what the program does. So let's say, for example, I'll ask you for your name and your gender, for example, right? So
Yeah.
let me put here a gender. So let me put here gender. So label your gender. Then I put here gender. Then I'll put here an input, a select rather, which is going to be gender. Gender. Then I'll have a gender. Then I have here. Now I put options. Sorry, I'll put here options. Why doesn't it want to type option? Then I can have another option for female. like that. So I have here gender male or female. So I have here gender male or female. So I can put my name here as Richard. Then I say here female. Then of course it's going to work out. But what I want to do here, I'll simply say if name is Richard and gender is female. So here I can have my name is not blank. Inside here, I can simply, because if my name is not blank, I'll simply say if your name is equals to Richard, then I put and. Remember we said the operators and is listed like that. And of course I need to get the gender field here. Gender field field like that. So and here I can put my gender, that's the name, then gender equals gender field dot value, right? Like that. So if name is Richard and gender is
Yeah.
equal to female, then I can simply say results div dot inner HTML equals, sorry, invalid gender selected. Okay. Otherwise,
Yeah.
then I'll output this value over here. So what I'm trying to simply just show you, I can have this if, then I have this other nested if. So this if statement is nested inside this outside if. So you can say I have this if, then there's the nested if inside here. Okay. So this is what you're calling the nested if. Okay. So I have a new if condition inside an if condition. And that is very, very common when you're writing program. So if I
Yeah.
come here and I typed Richard and I picked male, um, it should be okay. So if I type here Richard and this is gender, this should be gender. I think that's the error that I'm getting. Yeah, so if I typed here Richard and male, it will tell me Richard welcome JavaScript. But if I typed female, then it tells me invalid gender selected. So you can see, like I can have an if statement, then I can nest another if statement inside my existing if statement. And this, as again, inside here I can have another if and another if, and I can go on and on, maybe up maybe say 8 or 10 levels. Okay, and the program will still be able to work fine. Okay. So that is the first control structure that we use inside JavaScript. Okay, it's called selection. Okay, are we together?
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
another implementation of selection in JavaScript is what we call switch. The switch statement. Switch is very important, especially if you are testing one condition for multiple values. When you're testing one condition for multiple values, then the switch statement would work best for us. A classic example is I would ask you, what is your blood group, right? So based on your blood
Yeah.
group, I can tell how many blood, how many people can be able to donate for you, isn't it? So if you're A
Yeah.
positive, you can get from AB, from A negative or B positive, something of the sort, right? So if
Yeah.
you're O positive, you can only get from O positive, and so forth and so forth. You get the idea. So yes, we can write that with an if then statement, but again, a switch statement would work best. Okay. So let me
Yeah.
show you. Let me just show you how that will be achievable. So let's come here and create another paragraph. Let's just create another empty paragraph here. Sorry, so that it separates these items because it's a block level element. Then we can put another label and ask you blood group. So your blood group. So here we'll simply put select, then you can put blood group. Because you know the blood groups that are there, we don't need you to type, eh? Because we know how many blood groups are
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
we don't necessarily need to type.
Yeah.
That again, I'm just trying to show you how to also create a user interface that makes sense. So I can have here option. The value is A. Let me see if it's going to detect the others. I have B, A, B, and you can go on and on, right?
Yeah.
So if we have these ones, then we have another button here that says, um, so I can put a button here and give it an ID that says show, um, um, show beneficiaries, people you can generate blood to. Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
I don't know why my emmet is very slow today. My emmet is a
Yeah.
bit sluggish today. I don't know why. Okay, let me just give it a minute. Probably maybe it's processing something in the background. Okay, so yeah, I'll say show beneficiaries, beneficiaries like that. Okay, then here I'll have another div that has beneficiary details. Okay,
Yeah.
it's a div with beneficiary details. My email is a bit slow today. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It is slower than me typing the whole thing out. Oh, okay. It's refusing to okay. It's refusing to acknowledge that. So let me just write it by hand. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. So what I want to do is when I pick a blood group here, and I say show beneficiaries, you should show me the people who can benefit down here. Okay. Of course, the only thing I want to show us is instead of using if then else, we can also use switch because we're just checking what is the value of the blood group. So it is only one value that we're testing. Remember here, we could test for as complex conditions as possible. So here I could test for one value, or I
Yes.
can even test for more than one value as you have seen over here. With if, I can test for more than one value. For switch, I can only test for one value at a time. Okay? So that's the difference between the two of them. So what I'm going to do
Yeah.
down here is I'm going to say a constant blood group, then blood group, then beneficiaries diff. So I think these are the three fields that I need. Then when somebody clicks on this beneficiaries button, allow an event listener, and of course I'll put my code here. So the blood group will be that value. So as you can see now, it's only doing that because I had allowed it to actually write it for me before. I'd written this code before, that's why it's able to give it up to me. So what I'll do is I'll just output it here. So what I'll need to say is this. I'll say switch blood group. So what I'm doing is I'll pick blood group from this field over here. Then what I'll do is I'll switch blood group. So when you say switch, the only thing you do is you say case, then you put your value. So you can see if the value is A, if the value is B, if the value is AB, if the value is O. If the value is neither of the ones that have been provided here, then the default will be executed. Okay? So this default will only work if
yeah,
neither of the values up here has been implemented or does exist. Okay, so you can see I could still write this with if. Then I'll simply say if blood group is equals to A, then I do this. Else if blood group is B, then do this. Else if blood group is C, do this. Else if blood group is O, do this. Else do this. So instead of that, because I'm only testing for one value, now I'm using switch, and from the switch statement, I pick case, then I test a specific value. Now, every time I execute a value, I have to break, which means that don't execute anything else going downwards. Okay. Now, this is also break is another control structure which we call branching. So we're going to see how break also work out. But you can see with switch, you have to use break at the same time. Okay. So let's see how that works out. So if I say
yeah,
A, then I say show beneficiaries. So you can see your blood group A can donate to A and B. And if I pick AB, AB can donate only to AB. And if I pick O, O can donate to everybody else. O is a universal donor. Okay? And I
yeah,
think and I think AB is a universal recipient. Yes, this is a universal
yeah,
recipient. Yes. So this is how switch works. So I'm testing one value for one condition for multiple values, and then I execute the code based on the condition that exists. So this is also another very important control structure that we can be able to use as far as selection is concerned. Okay.
yes,
Yeah. So when it comes to selection, probably these are the most common ones that you'd find. If then else, if then else if, nested ifs, and switch. At least you'll implement any of these five when you want to do condition or selection. Are we together?
yes,
Now, the next control structure in programming is called iteration or repetition. Iteration or repetition. Repetition, like that. So sometimes you want to execute a given code base multiple times. Okay. For example, somebody asks you, in Kenya right now, we're importing vehicles from the current date to 5 years back, right?
yeah,
Or 5 years back to the current date, isn't it?
yeah,
How do you achieve that? Because I'll not be updating the program every other time to reflect that information. I should write it in such a way that if it is this year, it takes 2025, 2024, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, and 18. Because it's supposed to be 8 years backwards, isn't it?
yeah,
When I go to next year, now it starts with 2019, 20 up to 26. When I go to 2027, it starts with 2020 all the way to 2027, and so forth and so forth. How would you achieve that? That's basically how iteration works. So I'll show us how to write it manually, then I can show us how to automate it to pick from the current date. So that just you see how practical that is achievable. Okay? So
yeah,
iteration, this means that you can sorry, repeat given code block a number of known times or until a condition is met. Okay? So you repeat it a number of known times or until a condition is met. Are we together?
yeah,
Now, applications of this is first of all, the most popular one is the for loop. So you can use a for loop to implement iteration or repetition. Let's say you want to generate the numbers the years 2000 to 2020, and you want to populate them inside a drop down list. Say, for example, we have somewhere here we want to ask you what year were you born, and they're only accepting people who were born from now and 20 years backwards. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I can't be able to create another paragraph. Then I can create another label here. And sorry, I don't know why it's a bit slow today. Label for year of birth. So birth year, right? And birth year, I can say here, select birth year. Then I give it year of birth like that. Now, the problem is if I needed to do 100 years back, if I wanted people who were born between 1900 to date, that is quite some value. So you can see that is actually how I would have needed to write it, isn't it? And this is very static because then if I need 200 years, I'll have to write this 100 times. And that's why control structure helps us a lot. So I can actually automate that process without necessarily needing to type in those values one by one. So let me just do this. I'll just write it like that. Then down here, I'll pick my year of birth. Okay. So I'll simply say year const, year of birth field equals document dot query selector year of birth, isn't it? So you pick it based on its ID. Then what I'm going to simply say here, because I want to populate this year of birth with numbers from 1900 to 2025, I'll simply say for, then I need to specify where I want to start. So I'll say let um, I is equals to 1900. Okay. Then I'll put a semicolon. Then I'll say I is less than or equal to 2025. Then how do I increment it? I increments by 1. We used the decrement operator last time, remember? So plus plus means increment. So here what's going to happen is it's going to repeat this statement. Whatever is inside here is going to be repeated so long as I starts at 1900 and it is less than 2500, and I'll be incrementing it by 1. Are we together? So it starts at 1900, 1901, 1902,
Yeah.
and it will repeat that process until it reaches 2025. So that's why we're calling it iteration or repetition. It will repeat the code that is inside here until that condition is met. So what I'm going to do here, I just declare a variable here, let years is equals to blank. Okay. Then here, what I'll do is I'll say years
Yeah.
plus equals to, then I'll put my option over there. So yes, will be put an option with the value of the year, then I'll put the year inside an option. Remember, this is just HTML that we're putting. Then I'll take this year field and I'll change its HTML. Then I'll put it to the years. So when I do that, you can see it starts at 1900 and it goes all the way to 2025. How many lines of code? One, two, three, and 4. So for 4 lines of code, if I added these two, for 6 lines of code, I'm able to add, these are about 125 entries. So for 6 lines of code, I've added 125 entries. So that's how repetition works. So this code here will repeat until I is greater than 2025. When I is greater than 2025, it will stop because the condition says so long as I is less than or equal to 2025. Are we together? So I starts at 1900, then it continues until it reaches 2025, incrementing by 1. So that's why you're having 1900, 1901, 1902, all the way to 2025. Okay? So
Yeah.
you're starting to see now the power of something like JavaScript. Okay, some things you don't need to do by hand. The program will do it on your behalf. Okay, and it's dynamic enough because if I change this one to I wanted people that were born in 1890. I just changed it from 1890 to that. It will pick from 1890, and you can see I didn't need to change any portion of the code. The rest works perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you want to try that out, or we continue?
Yeah. You can try.
Okay, please do. Are you okay?
Almost done.
Okay.
I think it's okay.
It's okay, right?
Yeah.
So that is four. I mean, you can use it if you know where you want to start and you know where you want to end.
Yeah.
What if you wanted to add them in reverse? You want to start with 2025 going backwards because sometimes you want to reverse to arrange these dates backwards. How would you achieve that?
Um, can you write the code backwards?
Yes, that's what I'm asking. How would writing it backwards look like?
Uh, it will start from 2025
Okay, start from 2025. Then,
to maybe 1890.
uh-huh. Now,
Then
uh-huh. Now, this is what is going to give you what we call uh, an any code. The term they use is um, a code that executes continuously, an infinite code. This is an endless loop because when you're starting at 2500, I will always
yeah,
be greater than 1900 and you'll always be incrementing I. So it will be 2025, 2026, 2027. So I will never be less than 1890.
yeah,
So this is what is going to form what we call an endless loop. So what you can do is you can reverse this sign so long as I is greater than 1890, but then you decrement I. So you start at 2025, so long as it is greater than 1890, then you decrement, which means you reduce by one. Okay?
yeah.
Yeah, that should be able to work out. I know this one broke because it was initially that broke because it was initially uh, having an endless loop. So we just run it again and see. I think that should now be okay. So you can see now this starts at 2025 and it goes all the way to 1890. Very, very important. Avoid endless loops when you're using these repetition control structures. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, instead of using a while loop, I can still use something like a do while loop. Okay? So the other control structure you can use besides a for loop is a do while. Okay?
Yeah.
We have a do while loop. The good thing with the do while loop is that you can it doesn't have to be a number of times. It could be until a given condition is met. Maybe somebody clicks on a button, maybe somebody does something, maybe you want to say you want to print a document and yes somebody was the document printed successfully. If they say no, you print again. Then you ask them, was the document printed successfully? If they say no, you print again until they say yes, something of the sort. So you see that one does not necessarily mean that you have to do it a number of times. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's basically a condition. So for that you'll use a do while loop. So here I'm just going to replicate this code using a do while loop just to show you how the structure of a do while loop works. Okay, so what I can do
Yeah.
here is first of all I can declare my variable. So let I is equals to 2025. Okay, sorry. So I'll say here, let my I starts at 2025. Okay. Then I'll say do the following thing. Then I'll put here while the while condition here, isn't it? Okay. Do,
Yeah.
then I'll put here while, do while I, actually it is while, then do. I is greater than or equal to 1890, do this. So that will still be able to work out. Again, I know it's not. It's going to break the other one was an infinite code, and it would have broken the flow. But let's just run it again and see if now it works fine. So you can see still it works out. So this is a while. This is actually not do while. This is actually while. This is while. This is not do while because do I'll have to do something. Then I'll put while um, my condition is there, of course. So
Yeah.
mm, what does the structure look like? That should be the structure. Yeah, that's oh I don't need this. That's the structure. I'm the one who is messing up the structure. So this is a while. Now I'll explain the difference between while and do. So that is while. Then we have do while. So do I'll start at I is equals to 2025. Then I'll simply say um, this one is okay. Then I'll decrement I like that, and that should be able to work out. So I'll do this. So I'll start at 2025. Then I'll do this. I'll decrement I while I is greater than 1890. So I'll just refresh that. So you can still see it works. Now the difference between do while and while loop is this. Okay, the difference between do while and this do while and while loop is well do while will execute this at least one time. Okay, do will execute this code at least
Yeah.
one time. While might not execute this code. So for example, if I want say I want to start at 1889, let me say 1889. You will see that this code here will execute once because I've said do. Okay. So do will at least execute this code here before it tests the condition. So you can see if I say do, even though I was expecting to start at 1890, I've started at 1889. Now watch what will happen if I use a while loop. If I use a while loop instead, you will see that this thing becomes blank. Why? Because it will be checking, is I greater than or equal to 1890? I is less than 1890. So this portion of code will never execute. So while at least no portion of it will test the condition first before it execute. Do while will execute at least once before it tests for the condition. So that's the difference between the two of them. Are you together? Are you together?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very, very important.
Yeah.
So we have do and we
Yes.
have do while. Okay. So we have do while loop and we have while loop. So those are what you use, those three are what you use for repetition. Now, of course, we can use for each. We can also use another condition called for each. So for example, if I have an array of elements, so I will simply say courses offered. And these courses offered are going to be an array of diploma, maybe certificate, maybe bachelor's, degree, and masters. So and PhD. So assuming I have this array, we have not done arrays, of course, but I just want us to see what other control structures we have. Then down here, I can have say pick a course, right? So I can put a paragraph here and say label. Then I'll say select course. And I have here course. I can just have it course. Then I have here select with an ID of course. So okay, it's supposed to be course like that. So I want to populate this course with this list of courses. Okay, I'm assuming this data could be coming from a database somewhere. Okay, so I have this list of courses here. I have
Yeah.
it can be a constant. By the way, we said so long as it's not going to change in terms of structure and you're not going to redefine it, we can declare it as a constant. And you also don't need to change its value, so we can declare it as a constant. So I'm also trying to look at the at the principles that you learned before and how we can actually implement them inside a program. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, I'll simply say the course field. The course field is this. Um, I don't need to define it afresh, so just separate this on the comma. That's the best practice. So I want to take all the courses and display them inside here. So how do I do that? I'll simply, because I'm dealing with an array, I can simply say courses offered dot for each. Okay. Then for each, it means it's going to pick each and every function. It's going to pick the first one, the second one, all the way to the end. Okay. So that's another iteration. This is another
Yeah.
iteration method that I'm talking about for each. Then, of course, for each will give me two values. One of the values will be the element that I'm working with. In this particular case, I'll call it just the course. Then I'll now have the callback function to execute. And this callback function, what I'll need to do here is just to say let courses is equals to a string. Then here, courses will be equal to courses plus equal to course like that. So that way, I'll have all the courses. Once I'm done with listing all the courses, because they're going to be put here with an option, then I just pick this course field, courses offered. Then I say .html, inner HTML, rather, is equals to courses. And as you can see, that one should allow me to be able to populate. Yeah, why is it not populating all the courses? It's course, it's course. Yeah, why is it not populating? It should actually populate. You should actually populate courses. Let's just say console dot log post. Let's see what is coming out of the console. Maybe there's an error. So inside my console, I have an error for each course field. No, it's not course field, but it is actually courses offered. So this one is courses offered. That's the array. Then this is course field. This is now the course field. Okay. I'm the one who missed it out. Object is not a function. What does it mean? Courses offered. Line 14. Yeah, this array dot for each courses offered. Yeah, that's courses offered. It's an array course field. So courses offered dot for each. So I have here my course. Hmm. That's strange. Let me see. Is there anything here that's a problem? No, everything there looks totally fine. Everything there looks fine. Okay, this is just a plain array. It's not seeing it as as a as a as an object. So probably maybe if I was to change this one to be an object, let me just change it to be an object. This is a plain array, not an object. So if I change it to be an object, it has to have something like this. I'm just converting it into an object so that the for each works. So here I'll have course name. Don't worry about what I'm doing. I'm going to talk about objects later on. I'm just trying to show us how to use a for each loop. So yeah, that should now be able to work. It's telling me object is not a function. Courses offered, that's courses offered. It's an array. Yeah, that should be okay. Why is it not refusing? I don't know why this is refusing, but that should actually work because this is an object. This looks like a JSON object, and that's fine. So let me see, option, value, okay, option. But it's telling me for each, which is here. Um, type of courses offered. It's an object, yeah, but why is it assuming it's not an object? It's actually an object. Why is it assuming it's not an object? I don't know. I understand why it's not picking it as an object because it actually is an object. Let me see. This is a very strange error. This is a very strange error. Oh, so it doesn't see courses here, it's blank. So courses offered. Let me just try to debug this. Yeah, it's an array with 5 elements with course name and all that. So what's the big deal with this? So actually, I'm the one who was doing it wrongly. Um, yeah, I'm supposed to run a function. Then I'll put that. Then I'm the one who was running it wrongly. Sorry, I'm the one who was actually running it wrongly. This is the correct position. Yeah, this is the correct position. So what I was doing is I was supposed to say for each, then I ran an anonymous function returning the each individual course. So for each, then I ran this callback function. So I was not running the callback function, I was doing something wrong. But at least now you get it. So I can actually, even as it were before, it should have been able to work out even as it were, as a normal array. So what I'm going to do here, let me just put it back as normal array. So I can just copy this, mask this, then I can declare here const offered. Then I just give it uh, something like an array with diploma like that. So that one will just be the course itself. It will not have the course name. So I wanted just to check a normal array, and you can see even that one still works fine. So it is me who had written it wrongly. So even a flat array like this would still be able to work out. So you can see I'm able to calculate that. The point was I wanted to show you that for each is also another repetitive control structure that can, so I can pick elements in an array and navigate through all the elements in the array until I am done with them. So if I was to add a new one here like craft, you can see that will still be able to run it nicely. So you can see I have now craft diploma certificate and so forth and so forth. Okay. So for each is
Yeah.
also another control structure that we can be able to use when it comes to repetition. No, yeah, for each rather. Okay. Do I continue or do I let you practice on those ones? Because there's still quite a number left.
I can just continue. Yeah, you
There's
can just continue.
you can just continue.
Yeah.
Okay, now the other control structure that we have besides repetition and the selection is what we call branching. So number three is branching. Okay, so branching will basically mean you exit from normal execution and you go and start executing the code elsewhere within your application. Okay, so it's not linear
Yeah.
per se. And I think we have seen an example of branching. What we do with them is what we call, so this one means stop normal, or actually stop uh, repetition, execution, and proceed elsewhere. So we have two of them. One of them is break, and the other one is continue. Okay, so I'll explain what each of them does. So um, let's assume here I have I want to generate numbers from 1 to 10, and maybe I want you to skip a number, right? So if I want you to skip a number, then I'll use continue, right? Otherwise, if I want you to exit the entire loop, then I'll use break. I don't know if that is clear. I want to generate numbers from 1 to 50. Once I reach 10, I want to skip 10, then go to 11, 12, 13, and so forth and so forth. So if I want to skip a specific part of the iteration, I will use continue. Otherwise, if I want to exit that particular loop entirely, then I will use break. All together.
Yeah.
Let me explain those two because they are very important, especially when we are outputting some value. So let me output here numbers, my numbers one and my numbers two. Okay. So I have here a paragraph. Then I have here uh, skip 10. So the numbers will be shown there, but I'll skip 10. Then I also have a stop at 20. Okay, my Nini is a bit wanting. My Emmet is a bit wanting,
Yeah.
but let me just give it a couple of minutes to. Well, I can just write it by hand because that will take me forever also. So I have those two skip 10 and stop at 20. So let me just say when I want to load this, so I'll simply say here const skip 10, then stop at 20. So I have those divs. Then here, let me just generate numbers from 1 to 30. So I'll say uh, 4. Let me say let results 1 is equals to blank, and results 2 is also equals to blank. Then I'll say for let I is equals to 1, I is less than or equal to 100, increment I by 1. Then what do I do? I'll simply say if I, because I want to skip 10, is equals to 10, continue. If I is equals to 10, continue. Otherwise, I'll simply say here results 1 is that with a comma. It is I with a comma. So that would actually give me the result between 1 and 100, but keep 10 because I've said if I is equals to 10, continue, which means it will exit the loop at this point. So this portion here will not be updated. Are you together? Then I can say here this dot in HTML. Then
Yeah.
so if you look at this very clearly, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. After 9, what do you see? 11. So it means that it has skipped 10.
Okay.
Are you together? But
Okay.
if I wanted to stop at 20,
Yeah.
because I wanted to stop at 20, sorry, I'll repeat this code and I'll say for let I is equals to 1, I is less than or equal to 100, increment I by 1. Then what I want to do is I'll simply say if I is equals to 20. So long as I reaches, okay, let me say 21. If I is greater than 20, then do the following break. Otherwise, results 2, results 2, results 2 will be equals to that. Then this skip 20 div HTML will be equals to results 2. Okay. So what it means is I can now,
Oh,
okay, let me put the first one and the second one. That will be 10. Skipping 20. This is equals to, plus equals. Are they on the same line? No, they're not. They should be on different lines because, this is skip 20 div. What did I call it? Stop at 20 div, sorry. Naming convention, machine frozen or something. Yeah, I think today there's something wrong with my code editor.
yeah.
You can see it's literally freezing. I don't know why, even though this code base is a very small piece of code. Stop at 20 div, 13 HTML equals to that. Then if I also save that, so you can see skipping at 10, it will count, it will skip 10. But skipping at 20, it means that after 20, it stops. It does not execute anything else. So that's the difference between break and continue. And they are what we refer to as branching. It's going to branch from this loop and go ahead and execute the code that is going after this loop. In some programming languages, you have a go to statement where you can go to a specific line of code that you want to execute. Apparently, in JavaScript, we don't have that. Okay, so the other control
Yeah.
structures in other programming languages, as far as branching is concerned, is what we call go to. In JavaScript, we don't have go to. That's why I'm going to leave it outside. Okay. So what you have is only break and
Yeah.
continue. So in any program that you're writing, these are the three flow controls that you'll use: selection, iteration or repetition, branching, and branching. Okay. So iteration, repetition, or looping, they mean the same thing.
Yeah.
So you just need to understand exactly what is implemented in what programming languages. In JavaScript, these are what are implemented. Okay, and by there you can
Yeah.
substitute one for another. You can actually substitute
Yeah.
one for another when you're dealing with this code. So instead of using a for each loop, I can use a regular for loop, or I can even use a do while loop, or even a while loop. Okay. Let me show you
Yeah.
that. Let me just replace this for each using a do while loop or using a for loop. So to replace a for each loop with that loop, like here, for example, I'll just mask this and I'll say for let I is equals to 0 to I is less than or equal to courses offered dot length, then I plus plus do the following. So then what I'll do is that. But then what I'll do is courses offered here. That should provide me with that. I don't know if is there any error that's giving me that. This is my one. Let me just check why is it not passing. And sometimes you have to check your. So you can see even with that. So I've actually written this instead of using a for each loop, I've used a for loop because I'm counting starting at 0. Then so long as the length of the array does not exceed the array that I have, then you can be able to output that value. So you can see it is able to output it as nice as this other portion here had done it. So if I replace that with this, you'll still be able to see that the code is just working fine. A user would not be able to tell the difference between the two. Okay? But you know that I can use a for loop, I can use a for each,
Yeah.
I can use a while loop, I can use a do while. It will all depend on how I'm going to do my construction. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's very powerful. So you can
Yes.
see with that one now, it all depends on really what I would want to use as far as my control structure is concerned. So long as all of them are repetition, I just need to know what am I repeating or how do I want to repeat. If it is selection, I want to know how I want to do how I'm going to do selection and so forth and so forth. Okay. So maybe what you can do for your
Yes.
assignment is I want you to allow create a user interface that accepts student marks and grades them appropriately. And the grading table is as follows: 0 to 39 is F, or rather, let me say, yeah, let's say F. Then 40 to 50 is C, 51 to 60 is B, 61 to 70 is A, and then 71 to 100 is A plus. Okay?
Yeah.
So in short, I'm going to create a UI, then I'm going to ask you for the marks, then I'll have a button that says their process. Then depending on the mark that is scored, I'm going to give you the score. Is it an F, is it a C, a B, an A, or an A plus?
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So maybe you can do that. Then maybe when we meet tomorrow, we can start by revisiting that. Then we can now start looking at the fetch API, how you can be able to fetch data remotely, because these are the things we said JavaScript does so well. Actually, I think we need to do form validation first before we look at the fetch API. Okay?
Yeah.
Nonetheless, let me just see what we can do tomorrow. Then we can be able to carry on from there. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
Yesterday
set.
I tried to record. By the time I was finishing, I realized my disk was full, so the recording did not happen, and I was too
Yeah.
tired to repeat it all over again. So I said, let's just have it in a live class. And I want to believe I cleared some things, so the recording should. Yeah, the recording is perfectly okay. It's actually recording. Any question?
We'll set. I don't have any question at the moment. I'll just watch the video because some things were a bit challenging, but when I watch the video, I'm usually okay.
Okay, no problem at all. Let me just share it with you right now. Then you can look at it.
Yeah.
In case of anything, let me know.
Okay.
Okay.
Have a nice day.
You too.